Every artist that I've ever met has at some point been chasing their style. Although in most cases, they're actually chasing something that they already had, something that existed all along. Now, over 25 years drawing comics, illustration, and concept art, and doing a lot of teaching, I've come to realize that style actually has three main elements. Firstly, there's the concept of signal. Secondly, there's the concept of volume. And thirdly, there's the concept of function. And the real problem is most teachers are only going to teach you the first one here. Yet the third one, function, is actually going to change more about how your art looks than any of the others. And it's going to do so whether or not you plan for it, whether or not you like it. So in this video, I'm going to unpack these three elements of style so that you can stop chasing your style and begin clarifying your style. Alright, welcome to the Drawing Codex. My name is Mcburnie. I have been a professional working artist for over 20 years, and on this channel we're all about drawing cool stuff from our imagination, embracing the challenge of drawing, and mastering the craft of line and color illustration. The first aspect of finding your style is more in line with, I guess, how a lot of people view your style, which is the kind of soft, squishy, emotional, feeling-based version of it. And people use a lot of words for this. I think artistic voice is a great one. What I use in the impact framework is the concept of signal. And this is your personality, your style, the feeling, the vibes, the emotion, like the message that is part of your art. And this is stuff that kind of pervades, right? Like you can have an artist who could create science fiction, you can have someone who creates fantasy, but their personality, like their style, comes through. And this is very much linked to the details of who you are as an artist. Ways to find this out are actually pretty simple. A lot of it is actually a matter of removing elements. So the way that I normally talk about finding your style is actually about clarification. So if we look here, this is some of my early work. And often the challenge that I had, and the challenge that a lot of us will have, like I will remember back in the day sort of doing a lot of these drawings, is I kind of knew the stuff that I liked. I was a huge fan of the early 80s Jim Henson puppet films, The Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. I played Zelda. I played early, Nintendo, Super Nintendo video games. I was really into fantasy books and the fantasy art that was on the cover of fantasy books. But I would kind of constantly be distracted by what I thought was popular, or, hey, here's a video game studio that is in my town. What kind of games do they make? What sort of concept art should I do? I would sort of just look at magazines and things and stuff people were posting online and be like, well, people seem to like that, and no one seems to like the stuff that I like. So I'd constantly be chopping and changing. And often what this means is your actual personality and your signal, as you sort of go to develop it, like it is there, but it's often polluted with other people's ideas. And we often don't really appreciate and respect and go deep with the elements of this that are actually ours. So it took me a long time to kind of realize that I just had no interest in drawing superheroes, for instance. And although you might not think of that as style, like it actually is very connected to what you want to do, because often superheroes are about action poses and anatomy drawing and dynamism, and also, like in many cases, drawing realistically. Like you're a bit of a pariah if you kind of drew superheroes in a cartoony way. So it's often these confusing things where you kind of have to clarify, like, what do I actually want to do? Like, what do I actually want to create? And I'd always have real fun kind of creating these sort of fantastical scenarios, little scenes with characters. And I always enjoyed things when it was like a little bit more distant, when I was kind of looking at a little sort of diorama. But yeah, it took me a long time to kind of figure out what kind of artist I was and, what kind of work I wanted to create. And this process is not so much a matter of like finding stuff. This is already there. Like the personality that you have, like what I said in the beginning, where I think great artists have said, look, I found my style as soon as I stopped worrying about it and stopped looking for it. That's because it's in us, right? Like who you are as an artist is in you. The job is not to find it, it's to clarify what is already there. Get rid of the stuff that's not there and constantly refine your understanding of what's there. And this hopefully should be a different frame to think about style, because you can continually clarify something. You can continually refine something until you get down to the pure essence of who you are and you really understand it. And then probably you could purify it by like 0.1001% or something like that again, and still feel as if you've made some progress. So I think the first thing to do when it comes to like finding your style and your signal and your artistic voice is to understand like this is probably baked in there. It's probably going to change a little bit over the next 10, 40, 50 years or whatever it may be. As you get new influences and inspirations, you find things that you really like. You know, it's easy to, watch some movie or see something when you're like 50 or 60 years old and be like, oh my God, this is life-changing. I need to incorporate this into my work somehow. But in general, a lot of these things are baked into us like quite early on, and that's fine. So the process of finding your style is really a matter of removing stuff that is not your style and getting a better understanding of what you actually want to make. And that happens through a process of genuinely contemplating this, like genuinely thinking, what do I like? Like, what do I actually like in this world? We often don't spend time doing this. And what elements of what I'm doing, like what are the things that I do in terms of style, process, technique, aspiration, like jobs that I might be trying to get or apply for or move up in? Like how much of this stuff is stuff that I don't actually care about? I'm not actually interested in, but I'm just doing it because it's someone else's idea. This is the concept of refining yourself as an artist and continually improving and defining. And I like to think of this as your signal, right? Like the signal that you let out in the world that people can pay attention to. And like, is it a signal? Is it a music? Is it a sound that they like? And is it pure? If it's kind of staticky and full of noise and you can't really hear it, again, it just blends into the background. It's often when we clarify the signal, come up with something really clear, that everything makes sense. And finally, you actually click and you truly understand at some deeper level who you are as an artist. This is touchy-feely, but it is the first step when it comes to understanding your style and what it actually is. The second part of finding your style is about amplifying your style. So let me talk about why this is such an important aspect of it. And this is less touchy-feely. This is a little bit more analytical. And this is work you can truly do if you want to think through how to not just figure out who you are, but like how to actually turn up the volume on that idea. Now, I like to call this volume, and this is part of the impact framework that I often use. This is something that's very much part of the Mighty Artisan community, where we're talking about branding and artist careers and building your own projects, developing your authorial voice, figuring out who you are. I like to use this metaphor of sound, and I've talked about this on the Drawing Codex and on the Visual Scholar podcast many times. But volume, I think, is the second aspect of it. Now, presence, which is normally what I talk about as the third part of this framework, is not what we're going to be talking about as it relates to style. But I think separating out like what you truly care about and who you are and clarifying that is separate from saying, how do I make that really cool? Like, how do I make sure that people notice that? Because the challenge that we often have as artists when it comes to style is we go chasing volume. We go chasing what has visual impact, what has appeal. And this often means that people go ignoring their own style and saying, what do other people think is popular? What worked on Instagram? Oh, it's like half naked cute girls or people falling over or like funny cats or this or that. And so everyone, like typically what happens, the metaphor I like to use is people do sort of scantily clad cute girls from existing properties, right? You basically do fan art, not safe for work fan art. Why? Because that gets everyone's attention. The problem is, like, if that's not really you, if that's not what you want to do, which for most of it, it's not, For the few people who really enjoy doing that, like, yeah, you've got a really easy shot at, if you can do it well, having a lot of volume and getting a lot of people interested. But for a lot of us, like, that's genuinely not what we're interested in. So you have to figure out, without me just jumping on bandwagons or following algorithms or like picking things that other people like, how do I make my style actually have volume? How do I actually make it have a lot more impact? And that's where we need to think about all the elements that will actually amplify your style, not just what is cool and what do people like. The trick is that it doesn't matter what style you have or what is really part of your personality and your vibe and the mood. There's always a way to add volume to that. And it's just a matter of finding the right way. Now, there's a huge list of things that can add volume to work, but you could look at your classic Jack Kirby as an example, right? This has a lot of action pose, a lot of foreshortening, a lot of bright colors, a lot of these sort of psychedelic old school colors, and this stuff has impact. This gets your attention. As does Frank Frazetta, right? How so? It's colorful, but a lot of it is through just like sheer anatomical structure and tension and just having a really strong feeling, like strong shapes, strong composition, just really emotionally charged art. But then you also have stuff like Beatrix Potter's Peter Rabbit, and that also has a huge amount of impact. But it operates on a different level. It's cute. It's cozy. And people love cute things. Like, they really like cute things. Again, on the internet, you have scantily clad girls, like people falling over, and cute cats and babies. And these things are very, very popular. Like, cute cats make up a huge proportion of the internet. And we love this stuff. Everyone loves stuff that's cute and looks like babies. And if you have like a cute style and you can make that more cute, again, that is how you take the things that you genuinely care about and you figure out, like, how do I really make this have more impact? That's where, again, you're more likely to find the things that you truly care about and be able to add volume to that, as opposed to just chasing algorithms or chasing what's popular in the industry, etc., etc. So every type of art and every type of style that is sort of successful and gets a lot of attention and gets people to notice it, which is most of the stuff that you see, because we just often don't see the stuff that doesn't do this, has some way that it's using illustration theory or base human psychology to kind of really grab you and make you watch and listen. So this can just be great composition, great color theory, amazing story, amazing narrative, or like Ponyo, mixture of like cute stuff, bright, colorful colors that make your eyes bleed, an interesting story. Whatever it is, it's often a matter of figuring out, okay, this is what my style is. This is what I really care about. And to do that separate from what's popular. But then once you do figure out who you are, figure out how to amplify who you are, turn out the volume on who you are, and figure out exactly which elements of that signal you can make louder so that people will actually be able to connect with what you are creating. Now, if you'd like to learn more about illustration and picture making, you can check out my free illustration mini workshop. It charts my journey going from an amateur to a professional, and I talk a lot about really important issues such as how to get more detail and polish in your work, how to plan your images, create thumbnails, and also a few thoughts on how to approach being a professional artist. As I said, it's free. The link will be in the description. Go check it out if that's something you're interested in. Now, the last thing is function. And this is the thing that gets missed most of the time. The harsh reality is that most of the way your art actually looks and will look is based on two things. Firstly, the process that you use to create it, the steps that you use to create it. Process in many ways is style. The way that you create the art, the way you conceive it, the way that you step through, the tools you use, the process, that is kind of style. Like, that is kind of how it looks the way it looks. The second thing is that how your process interacts with the function of the work you create. And this is really simple when you think about it, but most people just imagine style is like a supermarket. You just go shopping for what you want. The reality is that in order to really be an artist, you need to do something with your art. It's not just a matter of being like, well, I've done a lot of studies and I've done a lot of stuff and I'm like a good artist now because I've reached a certain level of skill. Like, no, you need to do something with it. And the things that we do are often, to do with industry or professional practice in some way. And we're often having a function. So like 2D animation looks a particular way. And the way that you will be forced by working in 2D animation as an industry all day, every day, again and again and again, will change the way you draw. It'll change the way you think. It'll give you a particular process to work in. And yeah, if you work in animation production for 20 years, like you're going to have a pretty distinct way of making art and a style that is very much linked to how you make art and why you make art. It's the same thing for concept artists. Concept artists need to create stuff that looks really polished in a really short amount of time, but never that polished and never that detailed. So they develop processes, techniques, and styles to make nice, brushy, emotive paintings. We develop techniques for using 3D bases, custom brushes, custom shapes, whatever trick we can use to be like, bam, 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 now I got a cool painting and like, phew, my art director's got something to show to their boss. That's what concept art is. It's like, yeah, can you bash out like 3 or 4 or 5 characters a day? Can you do a finished painting of a cool environment in a day? Can you do a really cool one in 3 days? Like that is the life of a concept artist, and everything to do with the processes we use, the techniques we use, and the repetition of that process defines the style of most of the artists that you see who are concept artists. That's very different to the artists who create great book covers, where often they might spend 100 hours on a painting. And a lot of great artists will spend hundreds of hours on a painting, which to a concept artist is like crazy. It's like, where does the time go? Like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm literally just making a billion brush strokes and just painting all that stuff. They're like, why don't you use textures for that? Why don't you just cheat? It's like, well, because I'm doing it this way. I'm going to spend 200 hours. And if you do that for decades, that's going to define everything about your style and how it works and how you think about the subtleties and how you build capability and capacity. So this goes completely missed by most people, is that actually, even though you can figure out who you are on a deep level, you can go deep onto the, warm, fuzzy feelings of like who you are and what you care about. And then you can do some of this analytical work and figure out, how do you amplify that signal? The reality is what you actually do with your art is going to define most of the style anyway, which goes back full circle to this concept that while here's some structural stuff you can do, fundamentally, you're going to find your style by clarifying it as you actually do the work, as you actually figure out what industry you want to work in, what work you actually want to do, and as you actually make it, your style is going to become further and further clarified. But if you don't do those first two things, it's very easy to end up, after 20 years, as a professional artist, working in a style that you don't like. And that's the reality. For a lot of people who get formed by industry, formed by algorithms, formed by other people's ideas and expectations, it's very easy for you to find your style and then realize it actually wasn't your style and it doesn't really express who you are. So pay attention to all of these 3 steps, and hopefully you'll be able to find your style and actually work in and develop a feeling that is true to you. Anyway, that's all we got time for in this particular video. Let me know whether that helped you think through your stylistic journey. If you want a bit more information on the impact framework that I was talking about there, check out this video. Other than that, we'll catch you around. Happy drawing.